Hello again. In this video I'll tell you two classic wet flies. These are usually called North Country spiders, and they are kind of like historical English wet flies. First we'll try a variation of Greenwell's glory, and next a simple orange and partridge pattern. First off, start by attaching the tying silk. I'm here using a Gütermann yellow silk for the body. And make touching turns. Make sure that the body is quite even. First off, checking that the body is even. Next we'll add the rib, which is golden, tinsel, medium-sized flat. Attach the gold tinsel with the whole length of the shank so that the body is even. Leave a little bit room behind the hook eye and wrap the rib. Now when you're tying with a thick silk, you have to make every turn count, because otherwise you will get quite easily too much material on the shank, and the end result may look bad. In that sense, it is good practice to tie with a really thick silk, and you have to learn to trust one or two turns of the silk to attach the materials. Next we'll make a wing for the Greenwell's glory. I'm using Mallard wings, so you just pick one feather from both wings and pick a decent amount of wing and align them, straighten the wings, stroke them like that, and make the tips aligned. Also, when you're tying with silk, you should use some amount of dubbing wax. It will hold the materials much better in place. Now preparation is everything, and make sure that the width of the wings is similar. Here I picked a little bit too wide wings, so I'll use a needle to make it a bit more narrow and to match the other part of the wing. Be careful to align the wings well, like that, so there's no offset and the tips are in the same place, and that you have straightened the wings enough. Now the tip of the wing should be around the bend of the hook, and when you attach the wings the first round, you should pull it a little bit towards back of the hook between your fingers and press the wings at the same time so they won't spring up too much. And when you have it on, couple turns more and cut the rest out. There's a little wrinkle in the wing, but it's good enough for me. And leave a little bit space for the front hackle. Now this This version of the Greenwell's glory is so-called Clyde style. You can look at David McPhail's videos for more of those, but in this style we usually put the hackle in front of the wing. I personally like the looks a lot, and when you're tying the hackle, use dubbing wax again to keep the hackle in place. You only have a couple turns to keep it in place, and prepare the hackle, stroke the fibers back a little bit, and just a couple turns. Well, there was maybe one turn too much, and snip off the rest. Using hackle pliers, I grab the hackle. Now this is really gently start wrapping the hackle. Here the pliers slipped. You make the first turn, and on each turn try to stroke back the hackle fibers so that they don't point forwards. You should have them a little bit backwards. 2 or 3 turns, in my mind, is enough hackle. Just 1 turn on top of the hackle, then you pick it and pull everything back. Make a couple turns more, so that you have all the fibers to the right direction. The hackle length should be pretty much so that the end of the fibers are close to the hook point, or at the longest around the hook bend. This is pretty decent length for the hackle. And now there's not much room left with the thick silk, so 1 knot and a couple turns and snip off, and pick out the waist end of the hackle. Then a little bit of varnish to the head to make sure the key is kept in place. And there we have Greenwell's glory. This is one of my favorite patterns, especially for fishing grayling, and these kind of unweighted wet flies work really well in my mind in at least smaller rivers. Next we'll tie a Partridge and Orange. I'm using SemperFli Pure Silk for this one, and I found a good RX hood for it. They make one hook especially for North Country spiders, and they are pretty much how they looked in the old days, well, for what I have seen, the old hooks. And you start off attaching the silk behind the hook eye. Again, leave a little bit of room behind the hook eye to make the head and make the body. If you want to look at historical North Country spiders, I highly recommend watching on YouTube Robert Smith. He has some excellent fly tying videos of these North Country spiders. These are very, very simple flies, but the challenge in tying these is that while they are so simple, you have to get everything just right to make them look good. Now usually you would use Partridge Hackle. For this one I'm all out, so I'm using woodcock instead, and have prepared the hackle so that I've stripped the other side, and use dubbing wax to make it stick. Attach the hackle, just a couple of turns right there, and snip off the end. Now sometimes when you start making the hackle, it may slip a little bit, like it does a little bit here. If it slides too much, you have to try to attach it again, maybe using more wax or pulling tighter. And now, this time making the hackle, don't stroke the fibers back. You should make them point outwards a little bit more. Also, when you tie the hackle off, try not to crush the fibers so that they would get aligned with the body. Now this matters a lot when fishing with these kind of flies, because if you're when these flies get wet, the hackle fibers may easily get attached to the body, and you won't see much of the body color underneath the hackle. And this also matters a lot when you're choosing the hackle material. You shouldn't pick just any hackle fiber. Some are stiffer, some are softer, and it matters a little bit when tying these spiders. Now there's a few turns with the whip finisher. My thumbs are cramping already. And here we have a classic spider pattern. Enjoy. Thanks for watching.